Welcome back, everybody. Hey, we are back with back half of the schedule. We got 5 weeks left in the regular season before we get to conference championship time. So this season is really flying by. Even with it flying by, though, I feel like these last 5 weeks, there's a lot still on these schedules and a lot of these slates to have some really, really, really good football going on. A lot of teams that have kind of fallen out of the race by now for their conferences have a chance to kind of really still make a name for themselves, so on and so forth. It's really going to be an interesting, tight race with how tight this SEC um, conference is lining up to be. But we'll dive right into this week's games. We got first going on at noon. We got Arkansas at home taking on Ole Miss. Ole Miss. I don't know if y'all caught that Ole Miss Oklahoma game last week. It was real. I guess interesting can be say the word by the fact that Oklahoma was leading at halftime in that game. Um, to me, Ole Miss, I don't know what it is. It's like you get to this point of the season where you're in the middle of the season, the back half of the season, and it's just like I don't know if it's a motivation issue. I don't know if it's just, hey, we just kind of going through the motions and we're waiting for big games to come to us. But that's usually when they start to kind of slip up and you see those chinks in the armor. You're not getting a lot of production out of that wide receiver room like you did at the beginning of the season right now, but you're still coming away and squeaking by in some wins. They won that game comfortably, but for a long part of that game, it looked really suspect. But them going on the road to take on Arkansas. Arkansas has shown this season that hey, they can pull an upset every once in a while. Ole Miss is favored by 7 points. I think this will be another one of those games, kind of like Oklahoma. You heard Lane Kiffin this week in the media talking about they were upset that they're not getting any night games, or their schedule doesn't favor them and this and that. And it's like it's part of that, like I just said, that motivation issue when it comes to this Ole Miss team. For me, I got them winning this game. They're the more talented team. You look on them in their national rankings for all the statistics, offense and defense, they match up. They overmatch up in a lot of this stuff when it comes to Arkansas. And I don't see a reason why you should lose that game. But Arkansas has been one of those teams this year where you let them hang around to the end of the game, they can find a way to win it. But I don't see that happening this week. I think it might be close to halftime, and in the back half of the game, they take off and solidify it. I got them winning by I got at least a 10 point game, 10 point win for Ole Miss in this one.
Yeah, I'm right there with you as well. I think Ole Miss is going to take this one pretty easily, but I think to answer your question about what the kind of vibe is around Ole Miss football right now is I think they understand that Lane Kiffin's pretty much halfway out the door. I think they understand that this season and they missed their opportunity to win big time football games. I think that teams like this have a short window of opportunity in a time frame of a couple to 3 years, maybe that you can really take advantage of having this type of momentum, and they just can never get over the top. So I think with this year when they lost losing to Kentucky, being that team to really kind of knock them off the ranks, it's kind of just like, all right, cool. The hill we got to climb is too big now. So the excitement that we had early in the season to make all these big time plays, make all these big time runs, put up all these big time numbers, we just cannot do that same thing in the SEC if we don't have the true motivation to go out there and fight every weekend. And that's just kind of what I see from Ole Miss. Now, can they turn it around? Yes, they can. But I think their schedule is just too weak at this point to really make a push to get back into consideration for some things. SEC championship out the window. Playoff picture looking like it's going to be out the window. So to me, you're really fighting for what? A bowl game? In this day and age, you got kids that's not really going to come in every single week to really push that pen. And I think you got people on the team that are kind of fighting injuries to where if they were a one-loss team, I think a lot of these kids will be playing right now versus a three-loss team, well, two-loss team about to become a three-loss team in a couple weeks. I think it's just kind of one of those moments where you like, what are we fighting for? So this week, I think they can go on the road and beat Arkansas just because Arkansas does not have the talent to stay up in a game like this. I think, Ben, to your point, they can shock a team, but I think this team is just too talented right now to kind of fall towards Arkansas at this point in the season. So to me, I got Ole Miss winning this one by 2 to 3 touchdowns. I think it's going to be kind of convincing, as long as they don't start to a slow start like they did against Oklahoma. But I think Oklahoma was more based on people not being on the field versus this week, more people going to be on the field that they didn't have last week. So I think it's going to be pretty convincing.
Yeah, playing Oklahoma don't, we see it's not really saying much for whoever it is that plays them. They're just reeling in so many ways. But, Lane Kiffin is doing what Lane Kiffin does. It just it actually just happened a little sooner in the season. Usually he gets to like 7-0, 8-0 before he ends up, dropping 2-3 games or whatever. But because the SEC is what it is currently, Lane Kiffin just started, dropping games a little sooner than he normally would. He needs this win to stay relevant. I'm gonna say that. Like to your point, Drew, I think the playoffs are out of the picture. I think winning the SEC is also out of the picture. And is Lane Kiffin a good enough coach / motivator to get these kids that he's paying money to be at Ole Miss? You know what I'm saying? To rally and play this game against Arkansas. I actually think Arkansas has more to gain, or Sam Pittman, let's just say, has more to gain. Lane Kiffin still has options if things don't go well here at Ole Miss. I don't know if Sam Pittman has many options if he ends up getting booted out of Arkansas. So I do think Pittman's got more to play for in this game. Lane Kiffin's going to get the pass he always gets. Listen, Ole Miss is great with a 9-3, 10-2. Let's be ranked. They're great there, and I believe Lane Kiffin's also great there. But I got Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss winning this game, but I do have it going. I have it competitive late into the fourth quarter, but I do have Ole Miss by a touchdown over Arkansas.
All right, and then moving on to our 12:45 game, we got Auburn at home taking on Vandy. Hey, Vandy is they still trucking along. Auburn is a 7-point favorite in this one. Vandy coming off of the loss at home to Texas, which, people who watch the game, Texas kind of got up on them early. And then, in my opinion, felt like they kind of feel like, hey, we got the game won. Let's kind of just coast on to the finish. And then Vandy kind of just stormed a little bit back into the game late and got that last touchdown to make that a 3-point game in the last minute of the game. For me, I think the biggest thing with this game is that it's Vandy on the road. Auburn is a team where their fan base, to me, no matter the record, they always show up to their games. That's a very, very, very high-class environment in the SEC and very passionate fan base with their team, whether they're winning or losing, they're going to turn out. And for me, you look at Vandy's road games. You went to Georgia State and lost. You went to Missouri and lost. You went to Kentucky, but at that point in time, Kentucky's team, they've quit on Mark Stoops. He's on his way out the door, I believe, as the second fired head coach out of the SEC behind Billy Napier. And then now you got to go on the road to Auburn. I think everybody's not so much figuring out Vandy, but I think they're kind of leveling out. You had your peak. Now you're kind of coming back to kind of par. You can still make a lot out of this season. You're at 5 wins right now. One more win, you can get the bowl eligible. And you definitely got Auburn. Then you got a South Carolina team. Then you got to go to LSU, and you got Tennessee coming. So if you want to make a bowl, you got to win this week or next week to get to a bowl game and really stamp this as a successful season and a step in the right direction for Vandy. Auburn, on the other hand, is still, you're coming off your win against Kentucky, is another team, as we've said before. Kentucky is just, they've quit at this part of the season. They're done for, they're just showing up to games just to kind of be there. But to me, it just feels like we're this late in the season, and there's always the saying is, by the middle and back half of the season, there's no really changing who you are as a football team. You are who you are. And when it comes to Auburn, Auburn is not a good football team this season. That being the case, I got to pick somebody, so I'm gonna go with Vandy winning on the road. It'd be it's gonna be a good contest to me, just to see how they perform in a tough atmosphere, because it will be tough. Even with Auburn having a bad team this year, they're, like we said at the beginning of this, they have good fans. They're gonna still show up. They're gonna be loud. A win is a win in their book. They just want to see some competitive football and see if they can get it. But I do feel like Vandy knows who they are more so than Auburn does. And I think that's the key when it comes to this game, even with Auburn being a 7-point favorite in this game. I got to go with Vandy in this one. I like their style of play. They know who they are. They're going to show up. They're going to have intensity. throughout this game and come away with the victory late. Give me a field goal game. I got them winning by 3 in this one.
Well, I know this. The last time Vandy they kicked a game-winning field goal, he missed it. So I don't know if I got too much trust in him and on the road in a setting like that. But I do follow what you're saying in this one right there, Van. I do really love the point, and it's kind of my point is what I'm gonna piggyback off on. That Vandy has the more clear identity about who they want to be, and I think that to me, the only reason Auburn is getting the slide in the spread right now is just because it is a home game. I don't think that when you look at these teams on paper outside of the destination of the game that this team is really weighing on Auburn's side because to me, I think Vandy has the better quarterback. Then they have the better offense. I think they trying to honestly have a better defense. It's just when they come against teams that are just so much more talented than them, they just can't stop them. And I think that is something that for a lot of teams in the nation. So I think with Vandy in this game in particular, I think they're the type of team that takes the ball early, goes up, get on top of them early, and kind of just ride the early momentum of being up in these type of games. And versus an opponent that you can really, really beat. You play Auburn like you played Texas last week, via going all the way back to Bama. That's the type of Vandy team that I kind of want to see in this game right here. Just really stamp it and say, hey, we're not going to let our bowl eligibility be out of our hands. We're not going to do anything where we can't control our own destiny. So let's control it right here. Let's knock it into place. Let's solidify it right here this weekend. And I think that's all the motivation this team needs to kind of get the job done. So tough environment, tough atmosphere you're going to be in. It's an early game, so I kind of like that more than it being like a 3:30 or a night game for Vandy in that aspect. So kind of just handle your business early, get in, get out. I got Vandy by a touchdown. Flip the spread in Vandy's favor. I think that's what it really should be. So Vandy by a touchdown, just because to me they got the clearer identity and they got the better quarterback.
Listen, Vanderbilt is used to playing 11 o'clock games on the SEC network because they usually suck, right? But this year is different, all right? Listen, I said to myself, I'm going to learn a lot about Texas in the Vanderbilt game. I looked at that football game, and like I said, I learned a lot more about Texas in that game than I learned about Vanderbilt in that game. I knew Vanderbilt was going to come in there and muck that game up. You know what I'm saying? Vanderbilt wants to go 12 rounds. You know what I'm saying? They're going to take some shots. They're going to sneak a few low blows in here or there. You know, they tried a little shovel pass. Texas was ready for that. I was like, okay, Texas, y'all watch some film, right? Something that the board did not do leading up to that game. But Vanderbilt still kept it close and had a chance at the end. Listen, the way Vanderbilt is playing right now, I don't think Auburn has a fighting chance in this game, regardless of whether they're at home or not. Vanderbilt has a whole lot more to play for than Auburn does. If you ask me, Vanderbilt feels like they can make the playoffs right now. They can't, but I'm telling you, they feel like they're one of the best teams in the country right now. Because even if you watch film on them, a la Texas, I thought Texas should have drummed them. Texas should have beat you know what. They had all the film, all the time to prepare for Vanderbilt, and still barely got away from Nashville. Listen, if Vanderbilt had won that game, we was about to get in the car and drive 3 hours up I-65 and help them put them goalposts in the Cumberland River, because they wouldn't have got there until I got there. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a long way from campus. But I got Vanderbilt winning this game going away. I got Vanderbilt by 17, completely embarrassing Auburn at home, completely embarrassing them. And I got them stealing another one before the season's over, and it might even be Tennessee, right? So just Vanderbilt is not done. Hey, I'm the 15th fan. Let's go.
All right, moving on to the 3:30 game. Hey, we're not a licensed podcast, so we can say it. This is the cocktail party, yearly rivalry. Down there in Jacksonville, Georgia and Florida. Florida is a team, it's still questionable to me. This is the stretch that we've been talking about all year about how they were going to struggle in the back half of the season. They've sneaked up to 4 wins now. two more than what I gave them at the beginning of the year that I thought they would get. That Kentucky game, I think, had more so to do with Kentucky just saying we're done with the season. Saying a lot about Kentucky today, but hey, it is what it is. That's where they are right now. They're ready to move on. They're ready to turn the chapter, close this Mark Stoops book, and move on to whoever's going to be next. Everybody in that building is checked off. Um, to me, when you look at Florida, DJ Lagway is doing a decent enough job to get that offense going. But I think I know we've been saying it for weeks, but to me, this is the beginning of the wall for Florida. The next run that they have to go over these next 4 to 5 games is going to be, to me, a little too much for them to bear. Starting with Georgia, then you got to go to Texas. It's a lot that's getting ready to be thrown at them all at one time. Georgia is looking more and more as the season goes on. They're getting more polished. They're kind of getting the ball rolling a little bit more in a lot of these games. Right now, what is the spread in this one? It is Georgia's favorite by 16 and a half. I think that's being generous. I got Georgia winning this one. Give me 3 touchdowns, easy victory over Florida in this one. It'll be a get in, get out, kind of like how we saw a couple of years ago where the bottom just fell out of this game and it turned into 40 points by halftime type of deal. I think it very much could be that type of environment for them, because there's a couple games Georgia will wake up for and won't sleepwalk in the beginning of it. This is one of the ones where they usually from the jump of this game, they're ready to go, ready to rock and roll and get an easy victory versus still, they're not bad. Well, I'll say they're bad, but they're not horrible. It's a bad Florida team. They'll get on them early, get out of here with a win, and do their thing.
I'm right there with you in this one right here. I think Florida's in an interesting position. I think they're really dealing with offensive wise, just a young quarterback trying to figure out where he fits on this team and what this team really has. But I thought defensive wise, I saw a change in Florida in that Tennessee game. I thought the way they shut Tennessee out in that first half was kind of like, okay, we done figured something out. If we can be a tight-knit defensive team, I think we have an offense that can score 17 points a game, that can keep us in certain ball games. And the same thing happened the next week, against Kentucky in that aspect of that. I like to think, like just like you said, man, Kentucky's sorry, they suck. So that was the type of team that Florida says, all right, can we still have our identity and a good defense? We can go out there and shut this team down and sneak a win. My thing is, will it be the last win of the season? I don't think they have any chance versus Georgia, so it's not really too much talking about this week's game for them. It's kind of just talking about what can we salvage in this season. I don't think we can get to a bowl game, but I think if the way Florida State wins right now, this weekend's game is truly incredible aspect. Because I don't think they're gonna get past Georgia, but I don't think they're gonna get past Texas either. So it's kind of like, when are we going to strike that iron and say we're going to get the big upset of the rest of our season and kind of keep things going to where we can try to slide into bowl eligibility. But in this game right here, it's all going to be about physicality. I just do not think Florida has the dogs on their side to handle the dogs coming to their team. It's just going to be something that I think Georgia's going to outpower them manpower-wise. They got better, deeper team than Florida does, and I don't think that it's going to be much of a contest. I got Georgia winning by 4 touchdowns, really. I think it's going to be something they're going to jump on from the jump. Because I think in the aspects of flipping the Georgia side, they're really trying to prove they're the best team in the country. They're really trying to prove that at this point. Because I think when they lost to Bama, it was kind of like at halftime, all right, cool, we way better than this. And since that moment, I've kind of seen them keep that momentum going to an aspect of the only team left in front of them is Oregon. I've seen a couple Oregon games. I don't think they're big enough to beat the Dogs. So you really got a team that's in front of you that's an imposter in an aspect of the way Kirby Smart can really just keep empowering this team to push forward. Florida's going to get their ass whooped this weekend. I don't have any more wins for Florida. I think they'll get upset at the end of the year for Florida State, and I think that's going to kind of be a statement to get their coach fired on the way he can go out. So I think in that aspect right there, just depend on DJ Lagway and don't get him hurt. Keep him healthy, keep him to the point where he can see a lot of these defenses for the first time, change the realm of the offense, change the realm of the whole team going into the next season. And Florida fans, we're going to see y'all later because I really don't got much to talk about that after that. Georgia's up big in this one. Like I said, 4 touchdowns. We'll keep things moving on with them.
Yep. Listen, Florida, they have no chance. And part of the reason why they have no chance is because of what Kirby Smart is, what kind of coach he is, and what kind of team Georgia actually is. Kirby Smart knows that Bama being out of the equation, essentially, he's got a one-way ticket to the national championship game. But you can't lose a game like this, and that happens. So I'm not even worried about Georgia's mentality coming into this game. Georgia's going to win this game going away. It's going to be over really, really quick. Now, I'm still not completely convinced. Georgia's better than Oregon. Georgia's obviously better than Texas. But Georgia still, they haven't put a complete football game together yet. Who's gonna come up and bite them if they start slow? I don't know. But it's not going to be Florida. It's not going to be Florida. I got Georgia big in this game, probably anywhere between 21, 24 points. But I think this game is a nail in the coffin for Billy Napier. Now I know y'all, I'm gonna go sideways with this here for a second. Florida's next head coach. I had said Lane Kiffin earlier in this in the podcast early in the season. I'm gonna absolutely have to back off of it. I think Lane Kiffin has not done himself any favors by the way he just let seasons just run away from him, right? Who is going to replace Billy Napier at Florida? It very well could be a guy that wanted the Florida State job that didn't even get a look, right? Florida has sucked since Urban Meyer. Do you take a flyer on Deion in Gainesville? Do you take a flyer on him? I mean, you've been sucking all this time. What do you need? You need some sort of life. You need life, right? I'm thinking now, changing my mind. No longer is it Lane Kiffin to Florida. Deion does not have a future in Colorado after this year, period. What's going to be the most attractive job on the table that could use Deion's energy and everything he got going on? Man, I'm on the Deion to Florida trail right now, basically saying Florida, like you said, Drew, they're not going to win one more game this season. It's going to be over. Deion's done in Colorado. Why not make the call? That's my narrative in regards to Florida right now. I'm like, who's next?
I could see that happening so easily.
Yeah, and especially with Travis and all of them leaving after this year. If you're going to get them, after this year is the year to at least, you got to at least make the phone call, right? You gotta see. And with Deion and his, I mean, you can call it an ego, but his competitive nature, he wants to be in the primetime conference. Everybody knows, and he knows, SEC is the pinnacle of college football. And if he's not going to go coach at the professional ranks, and an SEC job comes calling with the facilities and with all the money and the recruiting fan base and that area down there in Florida at Gainesville, it'll be hard. It'll be hard, I feel like, for him to say no and to not go down there. And it's Florida. I feel like Florida does not have a bad roster. They've been still recruiting fairly well. I just think they have the wrong guy at the head of the ship. So, like I said, you're coming into a situation, if you can hang on the Lagway, you've got your quarterback already. You don't got to go recruit one to come there. Hey, it's an interesting question. It really is.
I think one of the biggest factors in that question is saying you got to get them before Colorado keeps them. I think it's a crazy thing to say in that aspect, but you got to take them away from Colorado before Colorado gets to keep Deion, because I think he's one big time recruit or one big time transfer in the quarterback position away from saying, let's run it back. Because I think if you get, at the end of the season, you have some of these big name guys that's going to cop in that portal, and Shedeur is gone. The quarterback position is going to be pretty much wide open. I don't even know who Colorado's backup is right now. I couldn't point him out on the team if I was sitting in the locker room with him. I wouldn't know who he was or where he's at. So I think you got an opportunity where it's saying we're pushing ourselves in the right direction. We're in a conference where really have probably the best talent really around and can probably continue to keep getting the best talent. So we're going to get a lot of wins, which I think that you're seeing happen right now in these past couple of weeks. You're not seeing Deion have really a better scheme than a lot of these teams. He's not really dominating a lot of these teams. But player-wise, he has the players on his side that can make more plays than another team, which in college football nowadays, that's going to lead to winning football. So to me, if you get another quarterback, like a transfer 4-star, like a transfer possibly 5-star that says, you know what, let's go ride this Deion wave. I think he locked into Colorado for another 2 or 3 years. And you got to revisit this with a brand new school that's got a brand new issues with the coaching staff. So can Florida be the team to pull Deion away before he gets truly locked in? Because I only thought he was locked in while his son and Travis were there, which I think as this season is progressing, you kind of seeing that come to light. But transporters coming open in a couple more weeks. They're gonna have a little short window where I can see a guy that's not satisfied with his season hop in. So we got a lot of people that's gonna be interesting, but it's gonna be truly interesting time period.
Yep, I hear you. All right, so moving on, we skipped one. I overlooked it, but we got Oklahoma at home taking on
Ain't nothing to
Maine.
talk about.
Yeah, ain't nothing to talk about. Oklahoma should win it. They fired their offensive coordinator week before this last one. They went back to Jackson Arnold, which I still do not understand why you made the switch to begin with all the talk that he had beginning of the season. They looked a little better. They had a little bit of a spark, like they kind of knew what they wanted to do, but just ran into a more talented team. Oklahoma's defense is still good, but their offensive problems are probably maybe even possibly second worst in the conference when it comes to offense and what's going on that side of the ball. But they'll win this one. They'll keep it going. I'll let y'all say what y'all got to say about this one.
I really don't got nothing to say about this one. Oklahoma's gonna win this game, get your 5th win of the season. I think now you got the quarterback that's really gonna be able to take your team to that next level, and even that next level is not a high level. You're going from low tier to mid tier in the SEC. So with that change, but I think getting rid of the offensive coordinator is the perfect move for Venables. I just feel like he's such a defensive mind
Mhm.
that he can't get creative on the offensive side as a head coach. So you got to have somebody that's going to come in and do it for you on the aspect, and an aspect that's a pretty big time name. I think they need a big time name to come in there and say, I can really just be hands off of the offense and let him run the show, because this offense has no identity. I don't think they really have much of a pass game outside of Jackson Arnold. I don't think they have a run game. I don't think they really have the dominant special teams they need to make up for stuff like that. So you really just got a team that's really soaking in its own puddles. That's saying we created this mess, panicking against Tennessee. I don't know what the idea of this team was this year, because to me, if we're being realistic, I know coaching talk. We're gonna go in there and say if we handle our business, we got a chance to get to the playoffs. But if we lose a game, you still can handle your business and get to the playoffs. It was a panic mode move to jump
Mhm.
quarterback ship, and you try to stick with it, and that sunk your season. So I think that's so much on coaching, where somebody had to take the fall for it. Offensive coordinator did. Can we continue this finding ourselves in this late season time? Because momentum is such a factor in SEC football. You can end this season off on the right note, have so much pieces to the puzzles already figured out, add a little bit more sugar to the seasoning that we need going into next season, and we got a fully ready meal to rock and roll with that's confident and go out there and dominate certain teams. I think they can get it done. It's just right now, you're seeing to me such a coaching letdown, such a coaching disappointment. And I think that's something that's going to change going into it. So this week, Oklahoma get a good win, keep on moving. But for the next couple weeks in this season, y'all really got to dig deeper and figure out who are we going to be for the next 5 years in the SEC, because you're in jeopardy of staying exactly where you at.
Yeah, and that's it's very disappointing. Oklahoma coming into a new conference. Maybe if you were in the Big 12, things would be a little different. You may end up with this team and coaching staff that you have with 7 or 8 wins in the Big 12. You know what I'm saying? Which it's not good enough by Oklahoma standards. But what you can't do is rattle off a 5 or 6 win season or not make a bowl game in the SEC when you're just coming in. That you can't do. you're going to have folks questioning whether or not Venables is the guy or not. I don't mind a defensive head coach, right? Nick Saban was a defensive head coach, but Nick Saban had the wherewithal to know to give the offense to a capable body. You know what I'm saying? Venables hadn't done that yet. You know, I don't know if he went to the Saban school to figure that part out yet. I don't know whether or not he's meddling in the offense or not. I hope he's not, but he probably is because they suck right now. You know what I'm saying? You just defensive coaches and offensive coaches don't mix. They're supposed to stay over here on opposite sides of the room, but they come together in game time and communication and things of that nature. But Oklahoma is a big problem in Norman right now. And if they don't fix it quick, I don't think Venables is the guy. If you don't fix it quick, you're going to get lost. What you don't want to end up being is Mississippi State in the same conversation with Arkansas at times. You can't do that. You can't do that at all. You're Oklahoma freaking home. You can't do that. So, maybe they should have gone to the ACC. You know what I'm saying? If they were in the ACC, they may be in the conversation to win the conference or whatever, but the move to the SEC with the way Oklahoma is right now is just absolutely terrible. Man, it's almost embarrassing. I got a friend that's an Oklahoma fan. Grew up in Oklahoma, and they just up under a rock right now, man. They just don't even want to come outside and play. You know what I mean? And that's just it's Oklahoma, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just they have taken themselves from excited to dejected. And I just think it's sad. I don't think Venables is the guy. I don't think they win another game all season. I think Venables is out. Ironically, I don't think Oklahoma calls Deion though. You know what I'm saying? I don't. It's not a fit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not a fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But would it work? Absolutely. But hey,
Yeah, and my thing with Oklahoma, man, I want to compare it to WNBA real quick because I think at the end of the WNBA season, you're seeing so many coaches getting let go. And I think every organization is starting to understand that the trajectory of this league is going to a new realm.
Mm-hmm.
If we ain't got that person on the head of our team to be ready for that switch, we're going to fall quicker than we're ever going to be able to catch back up. And I just see Oklahoma making that same mistake. I think Venables was the guy in the conference he was in.
Mm-hmm.
Even in that conference, he wasn't no 50 to 60 point week in, week out guy. He was like, we're going to play tough defense again in a conference where not many offenses are dominant. So we're going to play tough defenses against teams that are not really that dominant. And then now we're transitioning to facing teams week in and week out that are probably going to out physically dominate you to where you really got to be a more disciplined, more better scheme week in and week out to really beat these teams on a chess level, not checkers level. I mean, we just got to step the game up. Otherwise, Oklahoma is going to fall into a tier of sports it might not have seen in decades of being bottom of the bottom tier. Because I just see so many other teams in the right direction that I feel like if you came into this conference on a downward spiral, it's going to be years before you get back up. Venables is not going to get you back up. I hate to say he could do it somewhere else, but to do it at Oklahoma is probably just not going to happen. So they're in jeopardy. They got this sorry game this week. I'm not even going to mention the team they're playing. Missouri at Missouri. Bama coming to them. Then they got to go to Death Valley in their season. Fans out there, people that support our channel, comment the win you see because I don't see nothing. I'm Ray Charles over here. I don't see nothing at all. No wins for Oklahoma.
No, and I'm gonna say this, and we're done with Oklahoma. This is how you beat Oklahoma. You don't have to. You don't have to pay me $1 million a year as a coordinator to figure this out. I've watched enough of their games. If you get Oklahoma in second and long, they punt. They do not have a way to convert a third and long situation. So get them in second and long, they're going to take the quarterback and they're going to do some sort of run type situation with the quarterback. It's very predictable. And he gets stopped for he gets 1 or 2 yards on 2nd and 8. You got 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. They don't convert that play. They are terrible on 3rd down. And you can't be terrible on 3rd down in the SEC. They hadn't fixed it all year. They've used 2 quarterbacks. They hadn't fixed it. It is a systematic problem in that locker room. You can't win games with the other team knowing they can beat you if they get you in 2nd and long. Because 2nd and long means 3rd and long in Norman. And 3rd and long equals punt. That just is what it is.
And especially if Oklahoma coaching staff has shown they don't trust neither one of their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
If they had a quarterback they can really trust and say, you know what, we can build by focusing really on his strengths, and we'll be good. But they've shown no team exposed the quarterback. No team really ignited a fire under other quarterback. Oklahoma said, we don't know which one of y'all we want to put in. So now we really got a situation where both of y'all confidence is in terrible array. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, bold prediction, crazy take. I wouldn't be surprised there's another true freshman starting next year.
Yeah, that's true. But all right, moving on to another kind of so-so game going on Saturday. We got Mississippi State at home taking on UMass. Mississippi State is another one of those teams where I'm putting them in that boat like a couple others we have so far. And I don't think they win another game outside of this one this year. You finish your season with at Tennessee, Missouri at home, which Missouri is a very fraudulent team as we're learning before our eyes right now. And then you got to go to Ole Miss. Mississippi State is coming off of getting boat raced at home to Arkansas. Arkansas just absolutely hopped on them and annihilated them in their last game. You know, you got your quarterback, he threw for over 300 yards. When you're getting beat that much, the only thing you really can do in a game like that is throw the ball. So you're going to get those skewed stats from that category. But this is a game where you're an SEC team. It's time to prove it against an inferior opponent. Get your last joy, quote unquote, win. You're an 18-point favorite going into this one. Go ahead and get your last win of the season and pack it up and get your quarterback back healthy and get ready for next season. Basically, that is what it is for Mississippi State for this season. It's been a good ride. You'll leave with 2 wins this year, but it's okay.
I don't know what good ride you're talking about. If I went on a roller coaster that had 2 ups and a lot of downs, man, I seem pretty bored at the end of my ride. So Mississippi State, we got to hit more panic buttons than we've already hit in the aspects of how we're going to survive after this. I think losing last week's game was just so embarrassing the way they lost that game. I was really had hope for them a lot through the season because I felt like, Sean, like they're trying to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
They got something that if they figure it out, it could get done, but they just have not been able to figure it out, and it's almost gotten worse and worse and worse. So in a game like this, my main point, SEC Network, why is this on TV? We can't find no other game to put on TV, no rerun to put on TV rather than watching this game right here, rather than subjecting fans. I know there's certain fans out there that don't got a lot of packages. They don't got DirecTV. They don't got Spectrum. They don't got Hulu Live. You know, they can't watch every single game. Some people just got SEC Network and they got to watch this football. Man, I feel sorry for that moment. So we got to do better than this as SEC to make sure that none of our teams are this bad. So we need some type of fix to this. If there's ever a team that's going to hire Florida's head coach, Sean, this is the team. If there's ever a team that will hire Oklahoma's head coach, this is the team. I just feel like that's what we got to get hyped about for Mississippi State and trying to see what is the solution to the problem that we have in our losing versus win record. So in a week like this, please get your second win just because you're the bottom of the barrel for the SEC. And a lot of people say that we're only as good as our worst team. And if this is it, the SEC is losing this title as the best conference in football. So Mississippi State fight to be the worst, but not the worst of the worst.
Yeah, man, listen, I've had the unpleasant fortune of watching a few pieces of Mississippi State's football games this season. And I'm still going to stand by the fact that I think that the coaching staff actually has offensively a good scheme. The players just aren't there. They're just not there. You know what I'm saying? It's Mississippi State. You know what I'm saying? You guys are here. Y'all get a lot of money for being in the SEC every year. And you pack your lunch. You come to the SEC meetings. You know what I'm saying? You show up in basketball. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure how you do it in other sports or whatever. But, what they're doing right now in football is just okay. It's okay. I'm sure they're fine. You know what I'm saying? Mississippi State, it's fine. The fan base is close enough to Tuscaloosa. You can get to Starkville in about an hour and 10 minutes from Tuscaloosa. So it used to be when Saban was in Tuscaloosa, Mississippi State fans could just drive an hour down the road to see a good football game. You know what I'm saying? That's in question now. Right? We don't know if you can even do that today. But I say all that to say Mississippi State's in big trouble. I mean, if Bama continues doing what they're doing, Mississippi State fans can't even go to Tuscaloosa and watch a good football game. So I don't know. I don't know. It's going to be rough. I do like State's offensive coaching staff. I do. I know it looks like I shouldn't based on the numbers. I do like it. The scheme is there. The players aren't. I'm a fan of the coaching staff staying. Stick with this staff because you may not be able to get anything better. Maybe Venables or Napier. I don't know if that's any better though. I don't know. But yeah, your last shot to win a winnable game. Take it home and stink it up the rest of the way.
Real quick, side conversation before we jump to the next one. I was having a conversation with some coworkers the other day about the best traditions in football. And the cowbells came up in conversation.
Okay.
To me, I think a new rule, there's so many new rules to college football nowadays. A new rule should be if your record is below 500, you should not be able to do your tradition because it don't make no goddamn sense if it's not going to help your team win. The cowbell should be banned. Should be banned from the Mississippi State Stadium.
Silent.
Until this team can put up a record, a team on the field that is worthy of that tradition. Because it's something that people today are going to learn. They learn about this stuff, and you hear, Mississippi State's got this tradition where they do cowbells at the stadium. Just the most noxious goddamn thing you could think of. But they've been doing it for so long. It's actually a top 10 tradition in college football today. So to me, tradition should not happen if your team is ass. If you dirty in the dirt that you play on, put the cowbells up.
That should be a privilege. It should be a privilege.
That's
you know what I'm saying? It's like, y'all, listen, I can't remember what Bama game it was, but Bama just barely beat somebody this year at home. And my wife said, I sure hope they don't play that Rama Jamma song talking about we just beat the hell out of you because you did it. You just barely won. And what do we hear in the background? We just beat the hell out of you, and you basically just skated by the skin of your teeth. Carolina might have been.
Carolina. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's Carolina.
I said, I sure hope we don't hear that damn song. And all I heard was that. I said, man, y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves in Tuscaloosa right now. I'm with you. You got to be... You got to be contingent for something.
It's got to make sense. It's got to make sense. When you do it, it's got to make sense.
It's got to make sense.
Don't be at week 9 of the season and you don't want one game. Well, we still out there. Hey, rattle the bells.
Let's distract the other kicker. Down 50. Shake our cowbells, man. Please get that bull job up out of here, man. It's too obnoxious to do it in a losing setting every day. You got to earn that back. I need a win season to earn them cowbells back, Mississippi State.
I hear. You know, I'll get on roll with that because I've been at a plenty of. I'll even bring my team into it. Plenty of South Carolina games where they getting the Ole Miss game this year. I was at the game and we scored a field goal or something in the second half. And guess what? We playing that kickoff. Sandstorm going. We down 24-3, and we got Sandstorm playing like we about to come back and win this game. No, I'm with you. I'm with you because you just got to sit there and you feel awkward because you like, I really want to partake. in this when we look at how we looking right now, and I agree. I'm on board for that. It's got to make sense. You got to
Yep.
have a comeback halfway brewing before you kind
Yep.
of get back
We
into
need
it. You know, you
some. We
got
need
to the
some
wheels got to be
substance.
turning. Yeah.
Get some substance with it.
All right. Moving on to the primetime game. Hey, the ABC kickoff. South Carolina at home taking on number 10 Texas A&M. I got this is a big time game, and I said it. We missed last week. I was traveling last week, so we didn't get back to it. But I said in our last podcast that a lot of you hear it around the program right now at South Carolina that a lot of people were just saying enough is enough. You've had too many of these close games versus high quality opponents where you just like, hey, enough is enough. We got to go get the job done and actually dominate somebody. And I give kudos to them because through Shane Beamer's tenure here at South Carolina, away games have always been his kryptonite. Whenever he travels somewhere, especially the SEC teams, his teams do not show up. And to be able to go on the road, albeit as bad as Oklahoma's offense is, Oklahoma has a top 20 defense ranking wise in the country. They have a good defense. And to be able to go into Oklahoma and win that game the way you were, you're able to enforce your will on another team is a big statement for your team to have late in the seasons. Another part of that, we've talked about it all year. South Carolina has always been talking about the three things they got to do: cut back on penalties, and cut back on penalties. I forgot what the second one was, and then not turn the ball over. This was their first game this season where you did not have a offensive turnover throughout the entirety of a football game. So they've nailed that down also. I think for my sake, I'm going. The spread opened at 4 on Sunday. It's down to 2.5 in favor of Texas A&M on the road at Willie B. It's a sold out crowd. You're in November now, which is when Shane Beamer does the most damage. All of his teams have always ramped up in the month. We talk about Cocktober all we want to every year, all year. But November is where he really kind of surprises a lot of people. That's where you got the Tennessee win a couple of years ago. He went on won 3 out of 4 games last year and almost made it to a bowl game before losing to Clemson at the end of the year. The season before that is when he did the surprise run and got to a bowl game in his first season. November is when he gets his teams there. They've bubbled up to this point, and this is when they kind of spark. And I said it last time, there's not a game left on South Carolina's schedule that they don't have the opportunity to win as long as they show up to the game. And this is one of those ones. And I've heard all week after A&M has gone and they beat LSU at home and their blackout jerseys and everything. Everybody's talking about, yeah, A&M is only thing they got to worry about is facing Texas at the end of the year and then go into the SEC championship game. Texas, to me, you look at their schedule, right? And they hadn't really been on the road a lot. You've gone to Mississippi State and you've gone to Florida, right? To me, this is a new environment for them. South Carolina is primed and ready, especially after the Oklahoma game and having a bye week. That place is going to explode. That defense is one of the top defenses in the country right now, if not top 5 in the country right now. And they're walking. Texas A&M is walking into a hornet's nest, in my opinion. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be, whether it's going to be Weigman or it's going to be Marcel Reed. To me, neither one of those quarterbacks are great quarterbacks. They've gotten the job done up until this point, but if you go back and look at their wins and their stats, none of their stats outside of Connor Weigman beating Missouri the way that he did in that game, he has not been the flashy guy. And if he was the guy, why is he not the benefited starter? Why is he getting pulled in all these games? You've had Reed come in and started a couple of games already, so it's not like this is some guy that they found on the bench week 8, 9 in the middle of the season and said, oh, we didn't know we had him. There's tape out there on him already. What you have to do with A&M is make them throw the ball. They are ranked 92nd or 93rd right now in passing efficiency. South Carolina in passing defense is ranked 4th in the country. So you've got a explosive and dominant front seven that's going to prevent you from running the ball and make you pass it, and then you're walking into a trap when it comes to passing the ball, because that's where one of the underrated strengths of our defense that's rated even higher than our pass rush that we've got going on. And I think for a freshman in Marcel Reed walking up against Kyle Kennard, Dylan Stewart, Tonka Hemingway, this front seven, and then you've got Nick Emmanwori, who's already talking about being the number 2 safety. He's worked his way up to be the number 2 safety taken in the draft. If you're South Carolina, and I'm picking them to win this game. I think they'll win it comfortably. I think it'll be another one of these games where the defense shows up early. They're going to enforce their will, and I think the environment is going to be too much for A&M to overcome. They'll be going against a 12th man this week, but for South Carolina, you got to just keep building on what you did. LaNorris Sellers, I think you got to. He's finally healthy. Get him back to how he played on against LSU, passing the ball, running the ball, the confidence level he had in that game. If you get that and a little bit of offensive rushing production, you should walk away with this game handily and move on to the next one. You got to go to Vandy after that, and then you've got Missouri coming to you. That should be 2 more wins right there. Wofford, and then you got to go to Clemson. This is shaping up to be a very, very, very big November to remember when it comes to South Carolina football. But that's my little weekly spill about my team right now. That's what I'm hearing around here. But I'm just saying, bias aside, this is shaped up to be a very much trap game. I know how this stadium gets. This is the last night game of the season. This place is getting ready to explode, especially if we get a lead early. I think they walk away with this one a little too comfortably. Going to that one. That's all I got to say about it. South Carolina, Cox by 90. Go get them.
Yeah, real quick. How many other teams in the country play 5 games in November? Well, that's kind of crazy to me. It's 5. Yeah. Kind of crazy to me. Just think about that one right there. But I think, Ben, you own to something with this game right here. I really think you own to something. To me, when I think about Texas A&M, I'm so conflicted on who they truly are and what their potential really is this season. They lost on Notre Dame first game of the season and went on a win streak since then. Showed out LSU, but I think that's more of LSU's lack of coaching and lack of scouting that lost that game. Just because, the second half that they put up at LSU was just, it looked unbelievable for a Texas A&M fan. It looks like, we got the best quarterback in the nation that just can't be stopped. And it's more of like, LSU just don't know how to adjust
to run.
Stop a read option.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, come on, it's read option. Now we got this man running on the field multiple times on read option. Fast forward to this week right here for Texas A&M. I would be shocked to say, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen just because when you have a dynamic quarterback like that, he can make people miss and make big plays. But I would be shocked to see him running up and down the field like that at South Carolina with the defense and front seven that they have. I think the only chance that Texas A&M really has in this game is to be dominant throwing the ball and to get out of this game clean. What I mean by clean is less than 5 penalties. Clean. Be disciplined, be effective on that side of the ball. It's a huge game in the aspect of what the rest of the season is going to unfold in. Because to me, if Texas A&M loses another SEC game or loses their first SEC game in this aspect, I really think that they're not going to make it to the SEC championship. So it's really one of those things where I think if you lose this game, you're going to fall off because you're going to lose to Texas in a couple of weeks. And I think that you are, to the aspect of you really got to just take care of your business as a Texas A&M fan. But saying that to say, South Carolina has everything to gain. Texas A&M has everything to lose in this type of way. And to me, when you're not confident with your quarterback position, you're going to flip-flop. I don't think one quarterback plays the whole game in this one, Van. I really don't. I think Reed starts it off, but I don't think he's going to get any traction. And they're going to say we're going to need bigger plays in this game. We're going to need somebody that can push the ball down the field, which he showed at LSU. He could throw a couple deep balls. I think if he
two passes.
Two passes. A couple deep balls, but I think that's all about rhythm. I think he was feeling himself at that point, which is kind of just throwing some rainbow balls into getting people's hands. So I don't think you're going to have that same type of time to get that ball off this week. Because, South Carolina, one thing that's about them is their defensive line is, I'd say, best in the nation. They're going to get off the blocks down in and down out, which is going to overall disrupt the quarterback in the aspects of someone like Texas A&M quarterback. So to put my real analysis on this game, I really think this game is going to be like a field goal fest. I think both defenses are going to come to play, and I think both offenses are going to struggle to get consistent momentum throughout this game. So I really got South Carolina winning this game 15-9. I think it's going to be nothing but field goals in this game, unless a quarterback can break one or overall just get down the field and get an easy touchdown. But I don't think it's going to be a lot of touchdowns in this game at all. I think it's going to be one or two, depending on who can get it in the end zone late or who can get it in the end zone early. So I got South Carolina upsetting Texas A&M at home at William Brice Stadium in a field goal fest, a November field goal fest in the SEC, 15-9.
Listen, I'm not mad at your prediction. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Texas A&M is the week 9 version of Missouri back in week 6. You know what I'm saying? I think they're just a little overhyped. You know what I'm saying? Now, the good news is the media in the world hasn't necessarily taken hold of A&M yet. You know what I'm saying? They ain't really, I mean, they're still atop the SEC standards, but no one's taking them seriously for good reason. There's nothing to take them serious for, if you ask me. Carolina, this is a night game in Willie B. The defensive line, like y'all talk about, the quarterback situation at A&M, the lack of a passing game. Listen, I think Carolina wins this game big. I'm planning on watching this entire football game. Because I hadn't seen an entire A&M game, and I hadn't seen an entire – I did see an entire Carolina game against Bama, but I hadn't seen necessarily A&M. I saw probably 3/4 of the LSU game. But, you know, I'm just ready for A&M to sit down, and I need Carolina to do what they need to do and go ahead and pull up a chair. You know how back in the day you pull a chair up to somebody, but then when they get ready to sit down, you snatch it out from under them and they fall on their ass? That's exactly what Carolina going to do to A&M in Columbia this weekend. I got Carolina relatively large in this game.
Yeah. And real quick, I just want to harp on this. So let's just say South Carolina does win, and I don't want to jinx or anything like that. But you give Texas A&M their first conference loss. That gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SEC teams with one conference loss right now, which puts you into a mad blitz in this last part of the season to figure out who are you going to put into the SEC championship game, with more SEC games to be played, of course, and some of these teams will play each other, like Texas A&M. I think you still have Bama and LSU still have to play. So you still have a lot going on. But how does this conference outlook look with this many teams with only one SEC loss, with a total of maybe 4 to 5 weeks left to go in the season?
I mean, I truly think it's going to play itself out. I know that's the most cliche answer, but I think some of these teams still got to play to the late, to where there's going to be a couple more chinks in their armor. But to me, I mean, point differential is going to be always something that's going to come up in the aspects of when you look at statistics and things like that. But I see, just my prediction, Georgia and Tennessee taking the reins to this SEC championship. I kind of think that would be my reign of it. If Tennessee could just stay clean, I think Texas A&M versus Texas is actually going to be a tough game for Texas that could possibly be a late season loss to knock them out of the championship game. So I think that we aspects of how is it going to play out, the teams that are going to have big games in that final 2 weeks of the season, I think they're primed for upsets, primed for taking a peek at the talks of the playoffs around that time. I mean, the playoff talk really hasn't gotten ramped up to that next level yet. When you get to the last 3 weeks of that season, man, playoff talks is going to be buzz in every single locker room and figuring out what's our path to the playoffs. Which for a lot of teams having late season big games could be a moment where you peeking to a week too far ahead.
I think one thing that's cool about the this 12-team playoff and kind of how they've got it set up, you know, with the conference, the 4, Big 4 conference champions kind of getting that, the first 4 spots, and then you got some at-larges, and then you got the, best Power 5, highest ranked Power 5 school, whatever. I think the SEC team that ends up finishing 3rd is guaranteed a playoff spot.
Yeah.
the SEC team that wins the SEC is guaranteed a playoff spot. What's interesting is the SEC team that finishes second, meaning that could be A&M. Potentially, if you lose the SEC championship game, I don't think you get in. I don't think A&M's got to win out to get in. I don't think Tennessee has to win out to get in. I think A&M has had to come from so far back and to have lost your first game against Notre Dame, which is still considered a good loss. I don't believe too much Notre Dame, but I don't think A&M has enough runway and enough winnable games left to be there. I've heard projections saying anywhere from 3 to 4 SEC teams make it in, with that combination being Georgia, Texas, and Tennessee. I'm not yet taking Bama out of the equation mathematically. Looking at football, I'm taking them out of the equation because they don't look like a playoff team right now. But are they better than Boise? Are they better than BYU? Yes, they are. So what are we really talking about, right? So I'm going to be very interested, Drew, to your point, to see how this all plays itself out and whether the people who are making these decisions with the criteria that they have in front of them, whether they're going to use common sense or not. I'm not asking for Bama to be in because we're not going to win the whole thing playing the way we're playing right now. I honestly don't think Ohio State is going to win. Too many teams have too many holes. These schedules are too hard. I don't think Oregon is great right now. I don't think there's a clear-cut number one, to be honest with you. It's definitely not Texas.
Yeah.
It's definitely not. I mean, Texas is maybe a little overrated right now, to be honest with you. I see holes all in Texas. You know what I'm saying? I think Bama could play Texas on a neutral field right now and beat them. I think there are holes in Texas. I think Georgia's got the best thing going right now. But they still got a long way to go too, man. So, I mean, what the heck? I mean, this is going to be a very interesting ride. But right now I got to put Georgia in the driver's seat strictly because of the fact that Bama may not be in the way. And if Bama's not in the way, Georgia over the past few years has been an overwhelming winner in college football. And Bama right now is out of Georgia's way. So with them out the way, I'm waving the dead-gum flag in Athens.
You want to know something crazy, though, that I think there was a big mistake made by the College Football Committee? Is by saying that the conference championship get a guaranteed 1 through 4 slot. That's the mistake. If you want to really look at the definition of this playoffs, the mistake is having the conference championship taking the first 4 slots.
Yeah.
That's the mistake. You really just got to say conference championship teams get a guaranteed spot.
Yeah.
But it still is based on who you are as a team on where you fall in the 12. Because to me right now, at the end of the day, I think Iowa State's going to get a top 4 spot. Now, they're undefeated, but I don't think they're a top 4 team. I think that you really got to blend the old system with the new system in a full effect and saying we will still want the 4 best teams at the top. I don't care about record. I don't care about conference. I want the 4 best teams at the top. And then from there, let everything play out how it's supposed to play out. Because I think that's just so much to me in that aspect of, like you said, Sean, that's why you can say that the second place SEC team, and you got to think, you're second place because you lose your last game of the season, which is the SEC championship. You're not second place because you're so great and you finished second place in a race that was just a one-man race. No, you're second place because you lost a game extremely late in the season, and we have yet to see how that's going to play out versus in this realm of football. In the past few years, if you lose the SEC championship or if you lose your championship game, your conference championship game for any league, you're probably out of the playoffs. That's too late of a game in the season to lose and still get that hype. So to me, this year's college football playoffs is going to be truly a test run to me. I think 2027 is going to be the real year where you really see like the peak of this new system. I
Well,
just hope they don't add it to 16 because 16 is
I
not
was about
there.
to say, I thought they already proved that after 2026, they're going to 16. I think they're doing this for 2 years and they're
Did
going to
they?
16. I
Yeah,
think
that's
so.
another mistake.
That was
That's
like
another
right before
mistake.
the season started. I think they say they're going to 16
Yeah. To me, that's another
after
mistake.
2
'Cause to me,
years of
college
this.
football is not a March Madness type thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is not built like basketball where you got a hot team that can go up against Bama and get a win in whatever Murray State somewhere. That's not how it's built in this realm of football. So to me, I think the biggest mistake and my biggest point about college football playoffs is you cannot guarantee the top four conference championships to be the top four teams in the country just because you mess up so much of the other rankings. Because now you got to really put an ACC team like Miami, which I think that they could be. I think a team like Iowa State could potentially be better than some of these second place SEC teams.
Hmm.
But to me, if they went the head to head, the proof will be in the pudding.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big mistake in the aspect of how this is all going to play out. But I truly believe, Sean, SEC's gonna get 4 teams in. I could truly see that being a year one thing. SEC's gonna get 4 teams in, or the Big Ten's gonna get 4 teams in. One of those conferences is gonna get 4, which is gonna be hurtful for some people late, like a Boise State or somebody like that. But
Yeah.
get left out for a big name team.
Yeah. I mean, until they figure out how to, the conferences aren't balanced right now. You know what I'm saying? The SEC and the Big Ten are obviously better conferences than the Big 12 and the ACC right now. And that's just using the eye test, right? I mean, if you just know football or watch football and know what the heck you're talking about or what you're looking at, you can tell. BYU is the, I guess, top ranked team, maybe even BYU or Iowa State. If they played each other tomorrow, it'd probably be a pretty good football game. Yeah. But you take the 2 best teams in the Big Ten or the ACC, play them together. The winner of that game plays the winner of the BYU Iowa State game. We're talking about a massacre. You know what I'm saying? We're not level right now, but we're giving 2 conferences level treatment, and it's not level. Hey, I get it. Everyone deserves a seat at the table. You should have a seat at the table. We'll give it to you. But and these conferences are pretty much maxed out in regards to future expansion to make them any better. The Big 12 is about as big as the Big 12 is going to be right now, and so is the ACC. The ACC may actually end up losing members because Clemson and Florida State are trying to get the hell out of the conference right now. So somebody's going to get stronger by getting these 2 teams in the next couple years. There's going to always be this imbalance, but yeah, it's definitely messed up that we're giving them a automatic seat at the table with an automatic bye. You know what I'm saying? Only to get drummed in your first round matchup. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see. Hopefully they'll figure it out, but it's all money driven, as we know. And we've got all corners of the country covered right now. We've got maximum viewership. The Nielsen ratings are going to be great, regardless of who's playing who on whether it's a home campus or neutral site. It works. Money's driving it. We're going to watch it. And it's one thing we're all going to do. We're going to watch it regardless. But we'll continue to debate it, which is what makes the podcast work. So I love the debate. I love talking about all of it. It's going to get more and more interesting as the years go on. But this year is going to be hella interesting. I do think 4 ACC teams will get in. I think the question mark is going to be whether it's going to be A&M or Alabama is probably who's going to be that 4th team. You know what I'm saying? I think Georgia, Tennessee, Texas are kind of shoe-ins here. A&M, Bama, you make a good enough run, I think you find your way into.
And if LSU handles their business these next couple of weeks, they could be in that 4th spot as well too. So you got really 3 teams that can really fight for the 4th spot in the SEC, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, real quick, we got one more game. We got Tennessee at home taking on Kentucky. 7:45 kick. This is their what do they call it? The midnight uniforms. The blackout uniforms that they pulling out. Like I said, well, we've mentioned Kentucky plenty of times, so y'all get the message. Kentucky has given up on their season. This is it. I don't think they win another game this year. This will be Tennessee getting right before Georgia in 2 weeks. This is the other team that has 5 games left in the month of November, which is still crazy to think about. It's just scheduling right now. So you got Kentucky, and then you got Mississippi State, then you go on the road to Georgia. But easy game for Tennessee, kind of get right, get the passing attack a little bit more smoothed out. Rushing game is still very much a great aspect to that offense. Defense should be good. It should be a over by halftime type of ball game, and Tennessee walks away with that one easily.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't feel like it's too early in the season to feel like Tennessee to me is my national championship. I know that's a lot to say in one sentence, but to me, I think they are the team that can get over the hump because when you really look at Tennessee's season so far, I don't really feel like a team has really dominated them. I feel like they have gotten in their own way in the games that they were not dominant in. So even in the game against Bama, they won that game. I felt like Nico took a step in the late in that game, in the third quarter, going into the fourth quarter with confidence wise, just saying, all right, cool. I got the confidence and the prestige and the accuracy to make these throws that can really beat teams and put them in the coffin. So to me, I think this type of game for them is a game where you really got to just put it all together. Last opportunity before your biggest game of the season to put it all together. So to me, it's just like, all right, cool. What's the big opportunity we got to hit on? We got to make sure our penalties are down. We got to make sure our players are on the same page. We got to make sure our defense isn't giving up big plays. And I think that this team has that in them. And Tennessee at their peak, I really only think Georgia can stop them at their peak. And I just want to see that team show up this weekend against Kentucky. So I do got Tennessee winning by 4 to 5 touchdowns in this one. I got them running up the score. I got them doing all the big stuff, even though it is a late season game. But I got just Tennessee. I think they're just a team where they're one step away from being an all world team. Just one step away because they got so many fascinating pieces that are just so good, like the run game, like the pass rush, like the defense secondary. At times, it's just like if this team can put it all together, and I kind of feel the same way about Georgia. If they can put it all together, they got what it takes to go on a run and win it all. So I got Tennessee winning this one, but I kind of want to see it as a stepping stone to see can you take those steps to really be the dominant team that we want to see you be going into November.
Oh, yeah, man. Listen, for all the right reasons, Tennessee wins this football game, and they win this football game big. I'm going to fast forward quickly to the Georgia game. I think that this game becomes the biggest game in the SEC when it happens. Because, listen, truth be told, we talk about Georgia. I just talked about Georgia and how I think Georgia's currently one of the best teams in the country, obviously. But Tennessee messed around and beat Georgia. You mess around and beat Georgia, and you put Georgia in a position to where they could potentially miss the SEC championship game.
Right.
Or play in the SEC championship game and lose it. Now you talk about a 3-loss Georgia team. Now, granted, you got 3 good losses, but is that enough, right? Again, this is all I'm talking about the gravity of the season and what the committee is going to have to end up looking at and how they end up shaking this thing out when it's all said and done. I think Tennessee has everything in front of them. We're going to find out what kind of coach Josh Heupel is, because I think his chances are better now than they were a couple of years ago when they had Hooker at quarterback. I think Tennessee's in a better position now in an expanded SEC with Texas at the top of the league right now, with Georgia, to get this done. So, man, I mean, sky's the limit for Heupel in Tennessee. I will be a fan. I'm rooting for him. I have no reason to not root for Tennessee. I like everything about him, and I love their quarterback. I love the defense. I love the running game. Like you said, Drew, all the pieces are actually there. Whether they can put them all together or not is another thing. Saturday will be another Just a stepping stone. Let it be a stepping stone. Don't take the rat poison. Tennessee beat the hell out of Kentucky and move on with momentum going into your next very high profile matchup. I'm all about the Vols right now.
Yep, right there with you. If they can get past, I think Kentucky's gonna be the other team that could just give them fits that they can just struggle with. I know it's not their last opponent before Georgia, but it's the last team I think is gonna give you certain fits that can really make you struggle throughout a game. And it's just a team that I think can really surprise you. We've seen Kentucky put up good fights, even though I don't feel like the rest of the season is gonna be the season they wanted to be. But I know for a damn sure Mississippi State ain't gonna do nothing. So we're gonna go into next week just trying to stay healthy and get ready to not show too much versus Georgia before we get to Georgia. But this is gonna be the last real big team that can give them fits. And I think this is a game that they gotta just take so serious. That's why I think it's so much more momentum riding on this game.
Yeah. I hear you. Well, hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, leave a comment, hit the like. We'll get to your comments as they come in, as always. And we appreciate y'all tuning in. Until next time, we'll catch you.
Oh, yeah.